We on? Yes. Okay. I wonder where the best placement for this would be. Voice is not in its great state again, but oh well, we'll survive. Okay, let's go. Episode 6 of the podcast. Or if I need a drink. Fine, should be fine. Let's go. Press record for today's episode. Are you ready? Hello world. Hello my friend. Welcome back to the show. I hope you've had a good day, week, month, year, decade, century, however long you've lived. Hope everything's good, and if not, I think you need to talk about it. Today, we're going to talk about supermarket psychology, favourite food, favourite books, and possibly even whether I'm straight or not. Or exactly how straight I might be. Oh, I should have, again, nothing. Put things on Do Not Disturb. Because I was silly pants. Let me do it now. There we go, so we can be undisturbed. Perfect. On for 1 hour. We're going to be done in less than an hour for sure. Okay, so let's start with a bit of a recap. I've had a pretty mental week. I'm really coming to a point in my life where I feel like I need to seriously calm down a little bit. My kids were at their dad's for a few days, and essentially I didn't even have a half an hour slot to myself at any point. I was just doing stuff all the time. So even though I've had a 9-hour sleep last night, I'm still pretty exhausted from the weekend. But such is life. Got to find your priorities and stuff. What's been going on? In the last episode, the relationship special, I mentioned this guy who's been sending me quite harassing messages on a couple of social media platforms. An update on that. I reported it to the police. Had really good support actually. I think somebody said that they are they take these things very seriously, because I think it was about 7 years ago now, there was a girl who lived sort of locally who got stalked by her ex-boyfriend, and eventually he murdered her. And so it does feel like they're taking these things seriously. And which is really good is that I found the initial message thread, which actually started in September last year. So this has been going on for a good 9 months of just messages every now and again. And it was just quite creepy, the initial ones. I'm not going to read them out now, but I think it really added to the weight of the whole thing that I was able to. It was basically, I'd restricted his account, which I'm not sure what exactly that means, but I couldn't find the message thread on Facebook initially. So what I had to do is go onto Facebook. If I searched for his name on Messenger, it wouldn't find the thread. When on Facebook, found his profile, and then through his profile, I had to click to message, to message them. And then that opened up the conversation. So I was really, really happy I found that. The police have got a record of it. They'd got in touch with him. They asked me, first of all, what I wanted to happen. I was like, well, maybe he could just be informed that this is not okay. And first he'd pretended that he had no idea who I was, what they were on about, and then apparently they started reading out the messages that he'd been sending to me, and there's that, oh, well, maybe I do remember. So he got told not to approach me ever, and even if it was to say like sorry or whatever, he's not allowed to make any communication with me. And if that happens in the future, then it's going to become a bigger case that is going to go to court. I can't, just the thought of, I can't believe I have to be dealing with this type of shit. But, just as long as we do our part and try and be good people, and that's all we can do, really. And I think it's important to just, just don't feel like those kinds of things can be let go. And I'm not normally one to sort of complain where there's no reason to complain. But if I started feeling a bit, not necessarily unsafe, but just wary of my surroundings, it's not a very nice vibe to have, really. Also, we went for a dip in the sea, in the North Sea. That's probably going to be something like 6 degrees or something. This past Saturday, that was really fun. My friend voice messaged me about half an hour before she picked me up and just said, "What are you gonna wear?" I was like, "Oh shit, I haven't thought about it," and just went with the first bright thing I could find. So wore that, like, these ridiculously pink shorts and a top and a wig, which I used to use. I used to wear the wig when I was streaming during lockdown, doing like my DJ streams, and I was very happy to be wearing it again. And it was just a really, really fun time. Feeling quite lethargic before the dip, and then somehow, after having been to an icy sea, somehow wakes you up. So that was a really, really good start to the day. And then had attended this memorial service for, got a couple of friends who lost their friend, who was only 34 years old, of deep vein thrombosis, which is really tragic. He'd been travelling for a few years, came back and passed away. It's so tragic. The memorial thing was really beautiful. It was really nice, and I had to leave to come and organise a barbecue for my friends for like a Eurovision night, and the speeches, like, they hadn't done the speeches. The family even hadn't arrived by the time I left, and I was still just welling up. And I don't know, I didn't even know him personally, but I just heard things about him over the course of the years from my clients, and it kind of feels like I had a connection with this person, even though I didn't know him personally. But on the way back home, I was riding my bike and I was just pretty much crying, just thinking about how short life can be. And so, even more importantly, we really have to look after ourselves, look after the people we love, and live a life that you won't regret at the end. And I think it's all about today. It's all about taking action right now, because never is going to be the perfect time, as I've very deeply found with this podcast as well. If I overthought it, I would never have started it. And it's actually brought me so much joy and so much. I said to someone as well that just leaving this cupboard, so I'm recording under the stairs in a cupboard, and every time I leave after recording an episode, I just feel purified. I do feel like I've had a bit of a therapy session, and it's just amazing. I get so much enjoyment out of it. What else? Also, I went skating, inline skating. Some might call it rollerblading, but that's not the correct term. It's like saying hoovering. Hoover is a brand, a rollerblade is a brand, and the real terms are vacuuming and inline skating. So I haven't been doing much exercise at all, apart from rehab for my knee and back, for nearly 3 weeks. And I was so happy just to get on my skates and roll around a little bit, just going straight, nothing aggressive, nothing intense, but just that movement is, it's so amazing. My knee hasn't got worse since last time, because it's been pretty bad. And also went climbing at Sunderland Wall, which is where I used to work about a decade ago. And it just takes me so long to get there on public transport. And I had a friend who wanted to go and try it. And they've got these big walls. They've got 6-metre walls. Let me think. 10-metre walls, 16-metre walls, and 23-metre walls. Also a bouldering area. And because I haven't been doing roped climbing, as in like any real distance, been just doing bouldering in the past few years, really. Past probably 5 years. Oh my God, it was an intense pump, and it just brought back so many memories from. I used to pretty much live at that climbing centre. I loved working there. I absolutely loved coaching kids, like doing sessions with adults who are or were scared of heights. It's so rewarding, and I cannot wait to go back. As well, I do think that I love teaching climbing, and I feel like people I teach improve quite rapidly, and it's just really, really nice to see when somebody really sort of does things right to start with. And yeah, can't wait to go again. Anything else? Had a really, really, really good sort of business related chat recently, which is creating a bit of pressure for me to advance my business a little bit. I love being a personal trainer, and I absolutely love running my one-on-one or one-on-two sessions with my clients, but they are private clients working in my PT studio. And so there is just a lack of sort of sharing like my skills to the wider audience. So that's kind of a bit of something that I'm possibly going to be looking at doing at some point in the next year. But we'll see. Taking things chilled out, because I know that works the best for me. If I can get a bit of support for that, then that would be absolutely amazing. What else? Should we move on to the section which is going to be me spreading some of the knowledge that I've accumulated over the years. Today's topic is supermarket psychology, especially for the nutrition conscious person, or anyone who'd like to improve their diet, stuff like that. This is, I used to do a supermarket tour for new clients back in the day, and I don't really know why I stopped doing them. Maybe it just used to be a lot more convenient, and I just haven't done them in years in person. It just used to be something that was really good. I've got a degree in psychology, and I am a very sort of, I've studied nutrition ever since I was, 16, for a long time. And so supermarket psychology is something that obviously is very important, because we go shopping all the time. If we still do attend real supermarkets, physical supermarkets. I do have to say I resort to ordering online a lot more than I ever used to these days, because lockdown made it so easy. But I think it's important to understand why supermarkets are laid out the way they are, and that can really drive our consumer behaviour and help us make better decisions when shopping. So first of all, supermarkets tend to have this mellow, lovely ambient music if they've got music on, and it's just so that you don't rush out from the premises and you can spend as long in there as you want. And I personally wear noise cancelling headphones pretty much every time I'm shopping, but when I do go shopping, especially if I go in with an intention, which I tend to do, I just have the noise cancelling on. I'm not listening to anything, and I just go about my shopping. I don't want to hear the external music. I don't want to hear other people, really, and that's the way I like to do it. And then also, people who, the fruit and veg section tends to be the first thing you come to when you go to a supermarket, and I believe there's research to suggest that people who shop at the fruit and veg section tend to overall spend more during their trip. And then if you think about the layout of the supermarket, the things that most people will go for, say bread and milk, they tend to not be anywhere near the very front. So you have to walk through all the temptations in order to get your most basic items from the shop. Then if you think about the aisles, so they'll normally put really recognizable, well-known brands at first, because that creates familiarity and it makes you much more, it's like less of a boundary then to enter that aisle. So if you think about cereal brands, you'll just see your big brands first, and then you have to walk through to find the lesser known brands and stuff like that. Also, they want to sell you whatever's at your eye level, so be mindful of that sometimes you'll find better products, cheaper products, lower down or higher up than what you used to sort of looking at. Also, sort of brand-wise, sometimes stuff gets made in the same factory. They've got exactly the same nutritional details, but then you'll go for the one that's a big brand that costs you more, where you could just buy the cheaper version and spend less money on that. Let's see what they even, some supermarkets even use artificially produced bakery smells. And then you've got the floral stuff, flowers and stuff that you can maybe smell as you go past them. So this is all sort of, if you smell freshly baked bread, you're more likely to get hungry and sort of start thinking, I need something from the bakery. And they can have like so many tricks just to make you spend a little bit more money. Okay. Then going more into the nutritional side of things. First of all, you really should learn to read nutrition labels, food labels. That way, okay, let's talk about cereal. Go back to cereal. I think it's, what's the one that's like frosty? Basically sugar-coated cereals. You have a look at the packs and pay attention to how much sugar they've got in them. Some of these products are nearly 50% sugar. And they're supposed to be they're advertised as healthy, even healthy, fortified with vitamins, breakfast cereals for children. I mean, yeah, they're going to get a massive insulin spike when you feed them pretty much just sugar and fast burning carbohydrates. But that is not a very good way to start a child's day, or anyone's day to that matter. So for cereal recommendations, I actually personally don't really eat cereal because it burns up so quickly that I find it pointless, and it's not high enough in protein, which has the highest satiety factor, so it keeps you fuller for longer. But if you go for the stuff like Weetabix or what's it called, the shredded wheat, or well, basically pay attention to the nutrition, especially if you go to the cereal aisle. Pay attention to the sugar content of the cereal. Then if we talk about meat, I know some of you might be vegetarian, vegan, and skip this part, but paying attention to protein content is a very good way, an easy way to make you feel less hungry, have fewer cravings. So meat is a good place to sort of start. Really focus on doing skinless, less fatty parts of meat. So say chicken breast instead of the drumsticks. The thighs are going to be higher in fat. Wings are going to be higher in fat, and especially if you're having them with the skin on. But this is not to say, I used to be quite into counting every single macro and logging all the foods I was eating. I haven't done it for years because it is much more sustainable and easier to create a sort of diet for yourself that works for you, that makes you feel good. So it's not really to do with, how many grams of fat, that's too many and I can't be having that. I used to be much more sort of low fat because my body takes in carbs really well. So I'd rather have low fat, high carb diet with plenty of protein in it. But then some people strive, especially the people who are more towards sort of the heavier side, tend to go better with low carb diets. There are genetic differences. Also, just try things out and see what works for you. Some people really strive on minimizing carbohydrates and maximizing just protein and fat, and that's great. It doesn't work for me. I've tried. By day 3, I am so angry. I just don't want to be near anyone, and it doesn't work for me. But have a look at the nutrition labels, and as a very sort of basic rule of thumb, if you have foods that haven't been processed or have been processed as little as possible, that is your best way to guarantee that you know what's going into your mouth, and you're definitely going to be healthier in the long run. Also, they'll charge you more for ready-made things. So, instead of just buying stuff that's already been made for you, could you make it yourself? I know sometimes time is a big constraint, and, getting a ready meal could be an easier alternative. But again, ready meals have got their nutrition labels attached to them, and when they've put them into a laboratory to find out how accurate those calorie and other macronutrient and other nutritional measures are, they quite often find that they are quite far off. So say if you were sort of trying to stick to 2,000 calories a day or something like that, if you have it from ready-made processed foods, the chances are you cannot guarantee sticking to your calorie goal or whatever. So the more you can make your own food, the better. Snacks are a really, really common pitfall in people's diets. So they'll have a really good diet, but then snacks are accumulating the calories. And people don't realize, say nuts are super healthy, super good for you, but they are very high in calories because they are very high in fat. And so you'll very quickly accumulate so many extra calories during the day. My choices for quick snacks are summer months, just the whole cucumber. I love just munching on a big juicy cucumber or carrots or something like that. Just get a pack of hummus and dunk it in. Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. What else? It's really good how available they've made sort of the protein shakes and protein yogurts that they do nowadays, protein puddings. Again, if you really focus on having a higher protein diet, your body's probably going to thank you for it, because you'll just end up feeling fuller for longer. We'll not go into, obviously then chewing your food and stuff like that is very beneficial as well, to eating slowly, to making sure that your brain gets a signal of you being satisfied when you stop eating, not just scoffing. Oh, also these portion sizes, they do my head in. Say if you buy a bag of rice, suggest serving sizes 2. Is it? Just instead of listening to that, just create your own serving size, what serves you. I tend to have just 1 or max 2 big meals a day, and that works the best for me. I would hate to be having 6 meals a day, because it takes too much time to eat that many times and eat for that long. I'd rather sit down for a good 45 minutes and actually just have a good amount of food. What else? Research has also found that people who consume more low-fat and sugar-free products tend to be heavier than those who have the full fat and health-conscious people probably won't even have the added sugar products, to be honest. But I think there's a bit of confusion, and I'm not completely up to date with sugar studies. But I personally do think that minimizing any kind of added sugar is always going to be a really, really, really good idea. And then if you go for this, kind of calories a calorie, then if you have sugar-free pop or something like, Coca-Cola or something. Yeah, I would actually say that going for the sugar-free option is better, because it just doesn't have any calories attached to it. But then they also say in research that could then increase your sweet tooth, and so you'll be craving more sugary stuff. And I'm not sure, this is a decade ago that I was teaching this to people, because that's what I'd read then, is that because when you have something sweet that enters your body, but then your whatever things are trying to bind into those sugar molecules, and when it can't find them because there's no sugar and there's no calories, it's like your body gets confused, and then it makes you crave real sugary food, so you can actually find that stuff to bind into. So personally, I try and stick to the natural form of the product. Say full fat yogurt, I would go for, because chances are, or if you go for lower fat sauces, you'll just find that they replace that with sugar or sweeteners. So just don't believe all the advertising. Get to know the nutrition labels yourself, and then make a conscious decision on what you're actually choosing, because it's quite rare that you just get a much better product, as in health-wise, with no caveat. So obviously they use a lot of money on advertising and talking about things in a way that will subconsciously make you want them more, and they want you to buy their products. So bear that in mind. And it's funny, isn't it, that when you go to fruit and vegetable section or fresh meat aisle, you don't need any specific adverts. It just is what it is, because it's the real thing. So the more they have to advertise something being good for you, chances are it's not just plain factual stuff that you can take at its face value. My top tips for going supermarket shopping: make a shopping list and stick to it. Pretty much every time. Just try and put blinders on. If I'm just going for eggs and milk, bloody go for the eggs and milk. Don't buy other stuff. Or if there's, say, a deal, two for the price of one, that's fine if you actually get sort of more for the same amount of money. But if it's like get 30% off when you buy two, you're not actually saving money. You're spending more money. And I used to really struggle to get my head around this. But if it's not something that you would buy anyway, then don't just go for the deals. Stick with what you got in your shopping list, and you will make much, much better decisions. Obviously, shop around for, if you're buying feta cheese, then look out for the different brands. Look at what's higher in protein, and try out different things. It's the way you can sort of find your favorite things. Also, very importantly, tip number 2, don't go food shopping when you're hungry. That is one of the worst decisions you can make, because you'll be so much more likely to spend money on all sorts of shit. I don't know what the percentage is, but like people spend a lot more money who go shopping hungry, and you'll also end up spending on all sorts of snacks and silly things that you would have just ignored otherwise. And yeah, I think let's think. I think most of the things that we need are on the periphery of the supermarket. So I think this used to be the thing that if you stick to the outsides of the supermarket, you'll make the best choices, and it's in the middle where you get a lot like bombarded with all sorts of deals and things they want you to buy. Also, yes, be very conscious that what they put at the ends of the aisles, where basically the most people will see, that they want to sell you that stuff. So just be very mindful, because you're just much more likely to grab it. Also, before you go to your checkout, you will know that there's a lot of snacks and just little things that they're just trying to sell you just before you leave. Your final impulse shopping opportunities there. So write a shopping list and stick to it. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. And then let's go to questions. This week's questions, what do we have? Okay, we have... Okay, moving on from the supermarket and food theme to what is your favourite food? Oh, it's a very difficult one to answer, because I love food a lot. As long as it's good quality, fresh food, I will, just like nicely prepared with a bit of love, then I'm just a sucker for any kind of good meal. But let's say, favorite cuisine, probably Indian, Italian, some kind of Pan-Asian. Favorite, let me think about, okay, favorite food, favorite meals. Let's go with spaghetti bolognese. I always struggle with how to say it. I would say spaghetti bolognese, but then people here just say, why do you say it like that? Well, it's kind of like the more Italian way of saying it, and in Finland it's bolognese. That's how it's spelled. But what is spag bol? Just call it spag bol. Spaghetti bolognese, I think people say here. I love making it. I love cooking it the traditional way, proper Italian way, making it over 2 or 3 hours. I absolutely love slow cooking and chopping stuff, and it's amazing. Such a good family meal. But also say, if I think about what I've eaten out, there is a place called Chili Paddy in town who do an amazing tom yum vermicelli soup. That's just beautiful. That's one of my favourite meals. But it's changed a little bit actually since lockdown. It used to be bigger, and I feel like it used to have more things in it that was just made it extra special. But it's still super, super, super delicious. And then I have a special connection with fresh, properly cooked Indian food. Not the takeaway stuff that you get from a generic takeaway, but I have a friend whose husband is of an Indian origin, and I believe his family have taught my friend how to cook proper Indian food. So I've had a couple of days, like one proper day in her house, learning how to make proper authentic Indian food, and it's just, the flavours are unbelievable. And when she just love that goes into the food, but then if we talk about sort of food experiences, I actually talked about this in another sort of podcast that will be published soonish, I think. Not mine, my friend's podcast. It's like food experiences. Then it's more to do with, as long as you're eating with friends or family, or just people you care about, that's the best stuff. Just making it an event, making it an experience. I love going to eat out anywhere. So if there's a restaurant, no matter how good the food is, if the service is shit, I'm not going back, or I will try and avoid going back. Likewise, if the food is quite mediocre, but the service is amazing, I will go back. Very likely. Because it's just, I really appreciate good service, and it's all about that experience. Where did I go? Last week I went to Kaltur, Kaltur, in Newcastle on Dean Street, and that was one of the most amazing dining experiences one of the best experiences I've ever had eating out, really. There's just one waiter, one chef. We had good chats with both of them, and they were just so attentive, and the food was so fresh. They were really talking about the food with passion, and how, this is a new item on the menu, and like, you do realise that the rice gets black because of the squid ink, and there's just, it was just amazing. And they import their own extra virgin olive oil from a farm in Spain, and just to taste that proper like good ingredients, that's what it's all about. And if I just think about having eaten at a friend's house, it doesn't really matter what it is that I'm eating. I will just really enjoy eating food that somebody else has cooked. Although I love cooking myself as well. But it's funny, even if somebody else follows the same recipe, but you haven't had to make the effort of cooking it, it somehow just tends to taste a little bit better. There we go. Next question. What's your favourite book and why? Okay. The first 3 books that came into my mind, I've wrote these down before, so I'm just going to go with them because they were intuitively the first things that popped in my head, so they must have played a big role in me enjoying them. First one, Richard Dawkins' The Greatest Show on Earth. I actually read the book as an app, so they created an iPad interactive app for it, and that was just so visually pleasing, and the way Dawkins writes about evolution I find very compelling. And also, he's one of the authors who's changed my life the most. I only came across him when I came to England for uni in 2007, and one of my professors recommended his books, and my worldview really changed, because I thought, shit, if you're not exposed to these things, it's really difficult to change your mind. So he's quite a sort of radical atheist and stuff, and I don't take that kind of a stance, at least anymore. But it's just, The Greatest Show on Earth gives out such a beautiful description of evolution that I was literally in tears reading the book on my way to and from work when I worked in offices, because life is just so beautiful, and it's incredible. Evolution is so astounding, so unbelievable that I can't. So check it out if you haven't already. Really, really highly recommend The Greatest Show on Earth by Richard Dawkins. Secondly, this is not actually I don't want to mention a single book, but Derren Brown is one of my biggest idols in the world. I love him. I love what he does so much. He's so transparent. He's so intelligent, and I really, and I've really resonated with him, is that he says that he's not particularly ambitious, and he doesn't drive. So I'm like, yes, mate. I'm not. I'd rather just have a chilled out, good life, rather than be super career driven and that way inclined. And I just feel like, yeah, he's my soul bro. And then also just how much he knows about things is amazing. He also, I think the latest book of his that I've read, because I started his freshest one, which actually got signed, but I haven't read it yet. That's the Book of Secrets? No, I might have that totally wrong. I haven't read that one yet. But he wrote a book called Happy, and it's not the easiest read in the world, but it just has all of those sort of basic concepts that I have used for a long time to sort of ground my life on. That's probably not English. But I can't, the basic principles that I live by is sort of the very stoic ideas and stuff like that. Really, really highly recommend it. Also, if you struggle to read, like sit down and read, get the audiobook version. I love podcasts a lot. There is something about audiobooks that I just struggle with a little bit. Or if I do listen to audiobooks, I would rather they were quite an easy topic, because with books I love underlining. I like making my own little notes. Really, I read through things twice, and I'm quite a slow reader because I choose to be, because that's how I get the most enjoyment out of reading. And with an audiobook, you can't just, it's narrated at the same speed. And I actually managed to read go through a couple of semi-fictional books as audiobook versions. One was The Journey of Silka, which is about Auschwitz, and the kind of that was tough, but that was really good. Anyway, that wasn't in my top 3 at all. That just occurred to me then. One more book I'd like to mention is, it's called Philo, Filo. It's been written in Finnish. I don't know if there's a translated version, or if that actually is a translation. I could have checked. But it was basically my upper secondary school first book. When I attended my first course on philosophy, that was the course book. And again, one of these books that really made my understanding of the world a lot deeper. And I just remember I've got such fond memories of those philosophy classes where about half the people there were just saying they don't get it, they don't understand, and I felt like I've come home. It was just groundbreaking for me, and I really, really developed a deep love for philosophy at that moment in time. And I just used to love doing the debates and loved challenging and talking to the teacher. And sometimes I just felt like I need to shut up, but I really, really, really enjoyed that. It goes through a lot of the basic principles of, the easiest to understand philosophical concepts and stuff like that. But that was a really good one. Finally, let's do one more. Are you straight? The question is, are you straight? I would say I'm pretty straight. However, I do think, as with, say, autism, it's a spectrum. And I do strongly believe that sexual orientation is very much the same. I think there will be very, very few people in the world who are 100% straight. And I'm not saying that, you want to have sex with whoever you normally don't fancy. But it's just, I think I fancy more girls than I fancy guys, but that's just based on looks. And if we talk about the other kind of attraction, then I've had I've had 2 girlfriends in my time. That's when I was quite a lot younger, and the first one was just like a 2-week fling, nothing really happened, but it was just really exciting. And I think it sort of, I think we ended up fancying the same guy. So I feel like she was more lesbian than me, but then nothing happened. It just sort of fizzled out. And then another sort of more proper girlfriend I had was really cool, but I just found out that I don't really, it's not the physical side of things with girls that I vibe with. So I'd I'd say that if I just wanted a companion and nothing else, like basically like a friend, then I'd totally be in a lesbian relationship. But I feel like for me, men have got much more to give. But for me, personally, that's how I feel. So let's try and put it. Actually, this is a really, really interesting one, because I think I've had really fruitful conversations with some friends when I've asked them how many % they think they are straight. Normally, I tend to ask this from a straight person, and first they're like, "Oh, I'm straight." No, like, just put a percentage on it. And it's sometimes funny, I found out that one of my male friends, it's actually more than one of my male friends, I found out that they've had sex with another man. And it's funny because people kind of think that these are very straight men. And sometimes that doesn't turn out to be the case. And maybe sometimes you just need to experiment a little bit to know for sure. And, not for everyone. But percentage-wise, probably 9% lesbian, I'd say. Yeah. 9% lesbian. 91% straight. Do you prefer guys? A lot. And I think that's that for today. That's that for now. I'm going to get ready. Oh my God, so exciting. So I've got a friend here. I've been really hoping the weather today's good, which it is, because he said he could come and pick me up and bring his husband's helmet so we could go out on a motorcycle ride. And oh my God, although one time, oh my God, with my sort of first long-term boyfriend of like 2.5 years or something, he used to love riding a motorcycle. And once I was at the back of one, oh, my mum doesn't listen to this. No, please don't tell my mum, she'll freak out. But like, I had my arms at the back of the bike, but I hadn't locked them. And my boyfriend at the time, I think he just liked to go fast, young, full of testosterone, and he just like set off, and I nearly fell off from the back of the motorbike. That was scary. That was really scary. So thank fuck I was strong enough to hold on. So gonna be very, very safety conscious, and I'm really hoping, I need to message him now because he should be here in under an hour, to see if we can actually go for a motorbike ride, because that'd be really, really nice. Feel the breeze. It's a nice day. It's sunny, and then grab lunch somewhere before I need to get the kids from school. But thank you for listening. It's been brought to my attention that you don't subscribe on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, then please follow. And also, a thing to mention, I have been telling you in the past episodes that you can give your answers to the questions that people have asked me, which is still the case. However, the link wasn't working. So now I've fixed the problem. The link is working. So I will post today's questions, favorite food, favorite books, and I'd love to hear your answers on how straight you think it is. So you can send sort of anonymous answers, and I think you need to put in your email address, and if you do, just choose one that you don't really use. I don't know, maybe you can even choose, I don't know, but just I won't reveal your name in the podcast anyway, even if it's your full name, as the email address and stuff. But I would love to hear your answer as to how straight you think you are. That'd be amazing. So the link now is working. Go and follow that. If you do have your questions, please send them to hello at ericahelsinki.com. Come give me a follow on Instagram. Let's vibe together. And like I said, well, either follow or subscribe or do whatever you want, wherever you're listening to. I'd love to have you here for the next one as well. And if you can do one thing for me that I really, really appreciate, is share this episode with one friend, and I will be eternally grateful. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. It's been a pleasure, as always, and I shall catch you next time. Have a great day and look after yourself. Bye. Ba 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 ba. Oh, bye.